Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me begin by just asking Mr. Bice on behalf of the Farmers Union and Mr. Deneen on behalf of the Renewable Fuels Association, just to make sure I've got this straight. Both of you gentlemen believe that one of the major reasons for prices going up on food and wheat and everything else we've talked here, you would dispute the fact that diverting a significant amount of the corn crop and other crops is one of the principal reasons that the prices have gone up, having that go to ethanol, basically. You disagree with that premise, is that correct?
Let me be clear. Certainly the increased demand for grain for ethanol production has had an impact, but the impact pales in comparison to all those other factors that have been discussed today.
So an impact, but not a significant impact when you compare it to the other things?
Nowhere close. And again, it gets right back to oil as being the driving force behind
and I'll get to that.
inflation.
Mr. Bison, you would agree with that?
I do agree, and I think I testified over in the Senate a few weeks ago, and next to me was the chief economist at USDA who said the same thing.
Okay. And Mr. Tracy and Mr. Formica and Mr. Thomas, you gentlemen don't buy that, correct? You believe that is a significant part of it, the diversion into ethanol and others?
Based upon the fact of how many acres that were planted by corn that previously were wheat, I mean, it's just a question of supply.
Well,
wheat acres actually went up last year, though, and they went up the last 3 years.
All right, well, let me get the other two gentlemen.
And I guess on my side, I think there are many causes, and I just think that the ethanol issue, the corn-driven ethanol, as opposed to other non-food sources of ethanol, is just one reason.
Would you say a significant reason?
I have no idea.
Okay, Mr. Thomas?
I would say it's a significant reason. When you look at the crop reserves, they're at an all-time low. That went someplace, and that's obviously has an effect with supply and demand on driving the price up.
Okay, let me just stop. I got another question. So there's just a disagreement on that particular issue. Relative to the fact that oil being so high right now, $1.25, $1.26 a barrel right now, it's been going up when it was thought that it could actually get to $100 a barrel, and we're beyond that now, and it wasn't that long ago, but obviously that's running up the price at the gas pump that consumers are paying. But the fact that oil is so high, that that we're so reliant upon foreign energy, you would all agree that that's a big problem. Is that correct? I'm noting by the nodding of the heads that everybody agrees with that. You also, Mr. Deneen? Okay. So that's a problem. Now, and I would argue, not necessarily argue, but make the point that I think to a great extent we're reaping really bad decisions that our government, whether they were presidents or Congress, made over the years in doing a number of major things, one being restricting where we can go after energy that we have under our control. For example, in ANWR up in Alaska, in the Outer Continental Shelf, we've made it virtually impossible to build oil refineries in this country. We haven't built one since 1976, so even if we have the crude, we can't refine it quickly enough to actually utilize it. Boutique fuels, having to have this one in this state and that area makes it tougher to get the supply around efficiently. Not building nuclear power plants in 20 years in this country. France has 75% of their electricity generated by such facilities. So a number of decisions that the government made up here in Washington, D.C. that's affected these. Is there anybody that would disagree with the premise that that's one of the major problems that we're all facing now in these high costs at the gas pump, heating our homes, and what we're paying for food, to run a restaurant, whatever. Is there any disagreement on that point amongst the panel members here? Does everybody agree, basically? So I think everyone is affirming that they do. Let me, if I go to the restaurant industry, Mr. Tracy, how significant did the minimum wage increase have on your business? Was it a factor? Was it insignificant? What would you say?
I'm fortunate. My wages are well above the minimum wage for all my employees, and with the exception of if it had increased dramatically for tipped employees, which earn a lot more than minimum wage, but that's always been kept down to a level. A dollar increase on tipped employees would be a very significant cost. But over the last 5 to 6 years, there hasn't been any dramatic effect. Our wages have stayed well above minimum wage.
In your conversations with others in the restaurant industry, or do you believe that there has been an impact?
Minimum wage is always something that the restaurant industry on a whole is always concerned about. We have a lot of sort of beginning entry level members of our workforce.
Thank you. And Mr. Formica, I think you were going to say something there.
Yeah, similarly, we're well above minimum wage, and we have 300 accounts that are restaurants or delis or grocery stores, and it's never been discussed as a major issue.
Okay. And I'm almost out of time here, but I did want to mention, I know we've been getting a lot of letters and phone calls from our local bakers making us aware, not that we're not aware of it, but making us even more aware of the impact that the high cost of wheat. I think you mentioned on average 14% or 14 cents, and now it's up to 60 plus.
It's about 40 right now. It was 60. It's about 40 right now. I appreciate that.
But that's so. I would commend your colleagues for their effort to make us aware of it. I can't honestly say that Congress has acted to the degree it needs to act to really do something about that. But I would completely agree with the entire panel here that, I think it's our responsibility to do something about these high gas prices. I know in Cincinnati, for example, Monday when I came up here, I bought gas in the morning. It was like $3.69 a gallon. By the time I went to the airport a few hours later, all the ones that I passed had gone up to $3.95 in Cincinnati. And it's really hurting an awful lot of people, and we absolutely need to do something about it. So thank you very much, and I yield back, Madam Chair.